So, and did you see the one I just did? So this is a new series that I started called Way of the Warrior.
Okay.
Just sounded cool. And so I had episode one just posted a couple days ago, and it was with my buddy Alex, who's a army veteran, but he's a Zen Buddhist also, and he's been my mentor for meditation.
Okay.
And so we just the whole thing is it's really simple. Like just in my life, I've really been lucky to be exposed to so many amazing people. Just being in the wine industry and just whatever, just being the kind of guy that likes to surround himself with really cool people and like all these conversations that we have and all these great conversations I have just have enriched my life so much and helped me because everybody goes through struggles. We all have hard, tough times, and like it's helped me go through all this crazy stuff and come out on the other end. And just like I always thought to myself, like, man, it would be so cool to just like get people. I wish everybody could hear this. I wish everyone could be here.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, I just I want to have record conversations with people that I just think are really interesting people that have something to say, and whatever they might have expertise in a certain area or whatever, but we're friends, we have a good casual rapport, and we just kind of talk. And I obviously, like, there's some things I want to talk about, like we have the wine thing and the biohacking and all that, but you kind of let things happen as they naturally. And at the end of the day, what I want to do is have post videos of these conversations with people that the people who watch the videos take something away from. It doesn't have to be something epic and profound like a TED talk or something, but
All right.
it's just that they can take something away from, just like how you would having a conversation with an interesting person. And
Sure.
I just happen to be the kind of guy that gets into all those conversations and knows a lot of those people, and I just am like, it's helped me so much that I just think it's interesting, and so I want other people to be able to get some of that. So like this guy who's helped me with meditation and kind of has an interesting story, and we can kind of go back and forth. And yeah,
All right. Sounds awesome.
cool. So since we're recording, let's do it up. So for people that don't know you, I think a lot of people do know you, obviously, that I know, but just assuming that someone that isn't in the wine industry knows. You and I are both winemakers. You're the winemaker at Seavey Vineyards, and well, if you do, you want to give just like a quick kind of like what that is and all that kind of stuff, and
Yeah, sure. Specifically about CV and winemaking stuff.
yeah, and just you as a winemaker, just a quick who you are and
Sure.
background.
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. So, um, as you've visited, you've seen. So I'll try and paint a picture for everyone else who's not familiar with CV. Um, it's a beautiful little place. It's a tiny little estate vineyard and winery. So estate meaning we grow grapes specifically for our own winemaking. So it's a 200-acre ranch out in the Con Valley, which is in St. Helena, which is part of Napa Valley. And it's really, if I could sum it up in one word, it would be rugged. I mean, it's out in the sticks. There's no cell phone reception. You and I walk the hills. You can't talk as you walk up through some of those hills because they're so steep. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
rattle territory, and I think that that story also follows through with the wines that we make. So it's focused on Cabernet Sauvignon, which has really been the focus of my winemaking career, at least for the past 10 years. But uh, the thing that I'm most excited about working with CB is that it keeps me in touch with the seasons. So because it's a small place, I'm going to be outside working in the vineyard through the growing season. As harvest comes in August and September, really focused on processing grapes, harvesting and picking grapes, working in the winery. I'll work in the winery taking care of the wines through the winter, through the rainy season. And then as soon as I'm sick of or tired of one sort of process and being one area, it's wrapping up and I'm getting to go out into the vineyard. I'm back into the winery, so
right.
it sort of fits my personality in that I'm constantly getting to move to different places to work with the wines, and being that focused on growing. I'm always in touch with the seasons, with the weather. We're always concerned about right now the grapevines are going through flowering, so we're concerned about having some consistent warmth. Otherwise, it can really affect our yield, like last
Right.
year. So
Right.
it's such a small place in that we're making a limited quantity of wine that I'm very close to the grapevines, very close to the wines, and so that it just kind of suits my personality. I mean, I work alone most of the day, which is that suits my introverted personality, but sort of gets it out of my system. So when I leave work, I can be excited to be around other people and sort of share in that other part of my life. So yeah, it's just a really focused place for making Cabernet Sauvignon.
Right. And so, just so people know too, like, a lot of my guests are really humble. And so I got to kind of be their spokesperson too. So, you guys are making some really well regarded Cabernets. They're not definitely not your average Cabernets. And you're also working with Philippe Melko, right?
Yep.
So they're working with one of the top consultants in the world, really, but definitely in the Napa Valley. And so the job that you have and what you're doing is really something that a lot of people look up to. I know I do. As far as being a winemaker, it's a pretty prestigious position, and like you said, it's perfectly suited for you. You have that property, and that's your whole thing, which is really cool. I don't get that with what I do because I do more consulting and I'm jumping around, and so I don't have that. Which is there's pros and cons to everything, but so we have that side of you, and then we
Oh, and
have.
I forgot to mention the cattle. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh yeah, oh definitely the cattle.
We
Those
have
I
a
love those
small
guys.
herd of Black Angus cattle, and I'm really excited because we slaughtered two steer 3 weeks ago, and we're just having them butchered now, so we get meat in 2 days. So
Oh
it's just
dang. So
yeah,
we gotta let's get the kids together and grill up some meat.
yeah. So fully grass fed beef. We
Totally,
had a conversation about should we grain finish them, but in the end, I really pushed for fully grass
100%.
fed, grass
Yeah.
finished.
Oh
We know
man.
where meat's coming from in that regard. So yeah, we'll do some barbecue.
Oh, that'd be yeah. It's on. We're gonna link up offline on that. So awesome wines. Napa Valley,
Thank you.
really top, really boutique wine that's got it's pretty well regarded. And you've worked at some great places like Stag's Leap and other awesome Keystone Napa places as well. Then on top of that, you have this really cool podcast on iTunes, Inside Winemaking,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And I've been on that, and that was one of the ways that I think we had met. Had we had not met before that interview? I don't think.
We think we took a class at the Napa
A long
College
time
years
ago.
ago.
Was
Right, because I
Yeah,
recognized you.
yeah. There was a
But
lot of
yeah,
people in that class. Now that I realized I didn't, I'm like, you were in that class too. Like, was everybody in that class? Miguel Luna was in there, and a bunch of guys, and
I don't know him.
he's a vineyard guy. But anyways, I meet all these people at these parties, and they're like, we were in that class together. I'm like, that was a cool class. I think Maya Dallavalle was. She wasn't in that one, but she was in one of my other ones. Just all these cool people. So give me a quick what's up with that podcast, just for people who haven't checked it out. Yeah, you should. It's an amazing podcast.
Yeah, sure. So I think it shares a lot of similarities with at least what you explained and what you want to do with your YouTube channel and
Mm-hmm.
the project, which is it's the Warrior Way.
Way,
Is it called?
Way of the Warrior.
Warrior the Warrior. Okay, I'll get that right. But yeah, it's just I find myself like you have having conversations with other people. So specifically for my podcast, it's interviews with winemakers and grape growers, people involved in technical aspects of winemaking and running wineries. And so just having some of those conversations, I found myself kicking myself a number of times, thinking like, that was so awesome. I learned so much.
Yeah.
Like, how awesome would it be to share that with other people?
Right.
Because it's a very niche subject, but certain people they could get so much of a practical education from that, so much benefit. So I kind of use that to leverage talking to people like you or reaching out to meet new people and say, hey, basically I just want to have a conversation about your philosophies with winemaking, your experience, some of the drudgery that you've been through, and what did you learn through that? And then I want to record it, and then I'm going to make it free because it's really easy through iTunes and all
Mm-hmm.
the podcast outlets. I'm going to put it out there for free, so no one has to pay for it. It's behind no paywalls or anything. And just want to have a conversation, ask you the questions that I wanted to ask you by leveraging people to be on that platform. They're more willing to give time and sit down, and it's not a short form thing. But like this, you really get to dive deep and ask the questions you want to ask.
Right. Yeah, it's just an interesting group of people, and it's obviously the your podcast it says winemaking in the title, so it's about winemaking, but it's about a lot more than that. Just from listening to a lot of the episodes and then doing my thing, it's about the people, and it all comes back to people for me. That's
Yeah.
a lot of people, it's like I love wine, I do make wine, but my passion is people. There's just something about the interaction between amazing people. I've owed my whole life. I've always been the guy that got along with people really well. I've always been turned on by people. I love it. And there's just no other place in the world where you have this group of people that come from all different backgrounds that are very interesting. And by the nature of what we do, the things that we do on a daily basis, people, that's not normal. Like we tend to think it's normal. I think about it as normal, and you're talking about this and that. And I know that what you do on your property is really cool, but it doesn't even really hit me unless I really think about it, just how amazing it is, this whole thing, And until I go back home, to Sacramento, or I travel around the country and talk to people, and they're just like, they act like you're a Keebler elf, or something like they really exist, Yeah, they're like their eyes, like, and I'm like, oh, okay, but
Honestly, that was one of my motivations when I was young, because I decided really young that I wanted to get into winemaking, and I
wow,
remember like specifically talking to girls. So like sex is a big motivator, right? I
sure,
think people don't always talk about it, but
of course, yeah,
when I was young, I was gonna go to college, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life right out of high school, like most people, and so I
right,
signed up for business. My father recommended I do something. Yeah.
yeah,
And so I remember girls asking me, like, I remember specifically this one girl asking me, like, "Oh, what are you gonna, like, what are you gonna study?" And I said, "Business." And like, the eyes just sort of gloss over.
uh,
And then it was probably about a month later that I started making beer, and I got into the whole fermentation process, and that kind of led to winemaking. And then once I realized that you could do this as a career, I thought, well, shit, that's the only thing I want to do. Like, this
right,
is what I want to do. And I remember talking to another girl, and she asked the same question. I said, "Well, I'm gonna be a winemaker," and instinct was like
oh,
five more questions. And like I don't remember what she asked, but I remember like she lit up. And as a young guy, to get
right,
that the female attention, you can forget that.
no, totally,
So
totally,
I'm in it for the sex, is what I'm saying.
right. And as just like I know, it's just there's so much of that, just left and right. We're like rock stars, aren't we?
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah. We'll just let everyone keep thinking that, and
But
yeah,
it's really nice to be excited about what you do, because you talk to a lot of people. Not everyone goes to work and is excited every day about what they're doing. So I think that's, for me at least, that's very important to constantly.
uh-oh, we got to reconnect here. Satellites are realigning. Here we go. Uh-oh. Let's give him a call back. It's all good, you know? This kind of stuff happens. But it's okay. The show goes on, guys. The show goes on.
Oh,
Yo,
sorry, my internet shit itself.
man, it
Did you see
happens.
that? Okay, well, I think
I
I
think
might just do it on my phone. You tell me if it's how the quality is on the phone.
seems good.
All right, well then I'm gonna close this because the phone won't shit itself like the internet.
Yay. This will be good because it may give me a chance to actually figure out how to edit videos. It's
editing is a pain in the
I've been
ass.
so lazy with this YouTube thing. Like I don't even have like a background banner thing because I can't figure out how to do it. And I know I could probably just spend some time actually researching it, figuring it out. But like in like editing, like I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna put
But
the
you know
whole
what?
video.
If your content's good, that stuff doesn't matter so much
Yeah,
because
I don't really care, um,
uh,
as long as I can hear you. So so I think we both agree on that, and I think that's one of the cool things about the wine industry. But so now we got those two sides of you, but there's also the biohacking, which I definitely want to talk about. So you and I are both in the little mastermind group that we have together. That's kind of fellow biohackers that I'm hoping to grow a little bit. I kind of just planted a little seed to get some like minds together. But the cool thing about that is that biohacking is this huge umbrella term. And everybody always asks what it means, and I don't even know what the official definition is. The way I look at it is it's biohacking, so it's knowing your own biology and how your body works, and then tweaking different inputs to get different optimized outputs.
that's
So,
pretty efficient.
right, yeah, I mean that's the way I think about it. And so it's just playing around with these variables. The thing is, it can mean a lot of things. And there are some people way on the fringe of biohacking that do some kind of controversial stuff. And then there's just some more easier stuff, like fasting and this and that. So for for me, the mastermind group is cool because everybody kind of has a different path with this exploring their own body and how to optimize performance, essentially, and that's what it's all about. And you're doing some stuff that I have not done yet that I'm curious in and is very interesting. So I don't know, maybe you want to talk about kind of your experience in biohacking and some of the things that you're doing to kind of try to optimize your performance and all that.
Sure. Yeah, so I think it is a nebulous term, and I think whenever I meet people that are also into biohacking, I tend to ask, like, what are your goals? What are you in this for? Because that's something I'm questioning for myself. Like, what am I trying to achieve? But to take a step back a little bit, I've kind of been at this probably about 3 years specifically. And it started off just because I was 36 now, so I was about 32, 33 years old. And I just felt like I'm the first 32-year-old on Earth that's going to come down with Alzheimer's. Like, I couldn't remember anything, and I was
Mm.
feeling like just, can we swear? Are we okay if we
Oh,
swear
dude,
on?
totally. Yeah, yeah.
I was feeling like shit every morning. Like, I've always felt terrible when I wake up in the morning, but like, I just felt like it was getting worse and worse. And part of it, I was like, okay, I'm 30, so maybe stuff's not as awesome as it was in my 20s, but I'm only 30, I'm not 50. I feel
Right.
like it's a little early for the wheels to be falling off the bus.
Right.
Um, and so basically started just by looking at my diet and trying different things, sort of eliminations, or I wasn't really even thinking about macronutrients at that point in time, but I tried even going vegan for a while, and that didn't work out just because I really liked meat, and that was not going to, and cheese, that was not going to be
Yeah.
sustainable.
Yeah.
But then I stumbled across some of the Dave Asprey and Rob Wolf stuff. I actually had a chiropractor that recommended the Paleo Solution, Rob
Mm-hmm.
Wolf's book,
Mm-hmm.
and I read that, and first time I was like, I don't eat wheat. Like, I thought this was nuts. Like, what's wrong with bread? Like, it just seemed ridiculous to me. But as a few weeks went on, I wasn't feeling better. I thought, okay, I think this is crazy, but I'll try this. Like, a lot of these biohackers, I'm listening to all these podcasts, people are talking about how grains were perhaps not optimal nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
So I cut out wheat, and within 2 weeks, like, I noticed a lot of changes in my body. Like,
Mm.
I've never been a big guy, but I did lose some fat. I had a lot more energy. I started feeling better in the morning. But I did have like stomach aches and headaches. Some people said, "Oh, when you transition your diet, sometimes your
Yeah.
body can not be real excited about that and react negatively." And so one morning I was on vacation in Florida, and I was on my sixth poached egg, and I was trying to get it right. Trying to get my poaching right,
That's tough.
screwing up, and then I'd eat the egg, and
and by the sixth one, I was basically on the floor with just this stomach ache. And I thought, like, how have I not seen this? But, like, I'm either allergic or intolerant to eggs. Like, I used to call it my vacation headache. Every time I go on vacation, I get this headache. And then I realized it's the only time I sit and eat eggs is on vacation.
Interesting.
So I pulled out the eggs, and it was just like this, like the band on the slingshot had been pulled all the way back, and then I let go,
Right.
and then everything in very short order just was better. The stomach ache and the headaches, that was purely just an egg thing. And so, like, I had been getting healthier for having cut out wheat and cleaned up my diet a little bit. But then once I cut out that final thing, the intolerance with egg, then my clarity of my thinking improved.
Mm.
I just felt better all around, and I thought, holy shit, I wish someone would have told me about this 10, 15 years ago, because I guess you don't have to feel like shit every morning when you wake up.
Right.
It's not a natural. So from there, I just kind of said, if I can make this kind of improvements with just a few tweaks in my life, what else could I tweak? What else is there? Like, how optimum could this be? And so it's for 3 years, it's kind of been trying to answer that question. What are the things I can do with lifestyle to make myself look, feel, perform better? Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, it's like it after a while. I mean, a lot of people are just so buried and they're in this real dark place. I was one of them. That you just can't even think about that shit when you hear guys like us talk about this. They're just like, you're like, get the fuck out of here. And so, for those people, I don't try to jump them into all this stuff real fast. I try to just get them to like relax and try to lower stress, and then try to build every 3 weeks a small habit that's 100% sure you can do it, and give yourself a 24-month time frame to get healthy. Give yourself time, 24 months. Yeah, long time. I had to do that, man, and that was how I made all my changes. And I just did every 3 weeks. I did another little tiny thing that I knew I could do. Like, I could meditate. This is what we talked about in the last one. I meditate for 1 minute a day. That's it, 60 seconds. I could do that for 3 weeks, and then once you build the habit, it becomes automatic. Roughly 21 days. Then you can build on that. You can raise the meditation up, but. So now that's a habit that it just becomes something I don't even have to think about. I meditate for, maybe it's 5 minutes a day now, and eventually it'll be 10. And, so same thing, you build these habits. But, but once you get out of that fog and you start coming into the light a little bit, and unfortunately, a lot of the time, it takes something like what happened to you or with me. I had this real, like, I thought I was dying. The doctors thought they didn't know if I had cancer. They didn't know what was going on. It was like real serious. I thought I wasn't going to see my son grow up. I was 28 years old. Yeah, I had this mysterious, it turns out that I think a lot of it was psychosomatic. So that's why all the different specialists couldn't figure it out, kept running tests. And so the point is, I had that kind of moment. You had that kind of moment where you were like, Jesus, what's going on? And unfortunately, I think it takes that to take the action and create those first few little habits. Like you cut out wheat, which rolled into something else. But once you get a little momentum, it starts being like, well, shit, you start realizing, wow, like these little tiny things, like I actually really love eggs, but I mean, if I had to give them up, I would, because it would make such a difference in my performance. But you do these little tiny things, like it's no big deal. Like, what happens if I just tweak this a little bit? And what ends up happening too, and I think with biohacking, is that, and I like to talk about this when I talk about health and nutrition, is that I don't care about health and nutrition, really. I don't care about diet. I don't care about exercise. I care about people and spending time with great people and pursuing my passion. And optimizing my performance means maximizing the time that I have and making it more efficient. So getting more done more efficiently so that I have time to spend. I don't worry about my food now. I don't worry about my health and my fitness because I've got that set up automatically. I don't even think about it anymore. And the biohacking helps me perform so that I can get stuff done quicker and more efficient than I used to, so that I can focus extra energy on things that I care about. And so it's not even, some people are like, oh, I don't care, I'm happy, just this and that. I'm like, dude, like this is about you being able to enjoy your life more fully.
Yeah. I mean, like, what I eat affects my body physically, and that affects my mood. And so if I eat something that's gonna to give me some level of inflammation and I don't feel good, then I'm gonna be grumpy. And
Right.
if I'm grumpy, I'm not gonna be fun to be around. Like, for my family, for my friends, I want to be in a good mood. I want to not be under the rain cloud at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's crazy that just those, certain tweaks of your environment can change the way that you interact with the world in a much more positive way.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's really empowering too. It makes you feel like you have some control. It feels good. So biohacking too. I wanted to talk about. You've done some of the at UC Davis. Is it cryotherapy?
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, talk about that, and then the cold therapy and Wim Hof and all that kind of stuff.
Right. So that's kind of some of the biohacks I've been working on the past 4 to 5 months is just cold immersion, cold therapies. Um, and I've always felt like I remember one time when I was 18 going to the coast down in Southern California, and I was there with a girlfriend at the time, and she was swimming in the water, and I was in the water for like 2 minutes, and I said, I got to get out. Like I'm cold. And then I went to the sand, and I was shivering, and I couldn't overcome the cold. I couldn't stop shivering, and I thought, oh, shit, this is how I'm gonna go. Like, finally, I was able to turn the corner and my body warmed back up, but I was really on the edge of hypothermia, and
Mm-hmm.
that scared me. But I've also just always felt like real, not sensitive, but don't have a lot of resilience to the cold
Yeah,
at all. And I always want to build resilience into my life. That's something that can help you in many
that's
aspects.
cool.
Okay, this is a thing I gotta face. Cold water. I'm not gonna jump into the deep end per se, but I'm gonna build up this tolerance to cold slowly. But I didn't know how to do that. And then people started talking about cryotherapy, which I'll get into in a minute, and then the Wim Hof stuff, which has been a lot of fun. But so the cryotherapy is I think it's a good first step for people that want to try any sort of cold therapies, because it's not as uncomfortable as getting into really cold water. So in cryotherapy, you stand in a chamber, and there's two types. There's the nitrogen chamber, where you have your head out, and it's just you're in cold nitrogen from your chin down, or the whole body chamber, which is I've done, which is just super cold air. So it's not nitrogen; it's normal level of oxygen. So you get in. So it's at this private company in Davis. It's not affiliated with the
Oh,
university.
okay.
It's just in the town of Davis, which I always hit when I'm going to the Sacramento airport, which I always taking in-laws and parents in and out of
Sure,
there.
sure.
So you strip down to just like shorts. They have you put on socks, cover your ears and your fingers. All the extremities that you get.
Well,
You have smaller blood
frostbite.
vessels.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have more exposure, and so you go into this chamber, this first chamber, for about 30 seconds, and that's at negative 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And so it's a shock, right? But you're going to do this. It's 30 seconds, and then you go into the next chamber, and that's the real deal. That's negative 170 degrees
Holy
Fahrenheit.
fuck.
But yeah, that's exactly what you're thinking. But the negative 70 and 170 is not linear. It just feels there's uncomfortable, and then wow, a little bit more uncomfortable. But you go in there for about 2 minutes, and you just sort of stretch and move around, sort of
Holy.
move slowly. Don't touch the walls because you don't want to freeze to the walls.
Don't lick the
But
walls.
you should try that. Then you hop out, and essentially what you're doing is you're stimulating the body's hormetic response. So your body senses this extreme cold, contracts the blood away from your skin towards your organs to shut down and protect yourself. But you're not in there long enough to actually do damage to yourself.
Right.
So you're out, and then your blood vessels all over your body open up, and you get this. It's not a rush; it's more subtle than that. But you can feel sort of a flush through your body. But also, this is, as I now know, it's known to stimulate things like neurotransmitters like norepinephrine, adrenaline, and these have very positive psychological benefits. And for me, that's been the most exciting part. The greatest benefit that I've experienced is just the uplift psychologically from this experience. So it's this acute extreme
Right.
exposure, and then it's sort of a slow onset. I would say within 15 to 30 minutes, you sort of have this really uplifting, non-druggy type of lift. Like, it's not like coffee, which
Right.
to me is very lifting, but it comes with, other disadvantages.
Right.
It's not like any other, but it's just it's almost like a runner's high. I think that's probably the or any sort of exercise high, something you could compare it to. So yeah, does that give you a good idea of what cryotherapy is?
Yeah, it sounds really. I really want to do that. I'm gonna. Well, what's the name of the place?
I think it's USA Cryotherapy.
Okay, I'm gonna try to. I'll look it up and then I'll try to add it on this video. I want to go do that because I've always I've got some things where actually the ketogenic diet has really helped with inflammation. I've always had like a lot of inflammation in my. I've been prone to tendonitis and stuff like that. So I feel like that would help with that. As far as the mood boosting,
Yeah.
was it does it last or do you have to keep it going or?
Yeah, it's lasting and sort of tapers off, but it's not because it's like a slower onset, and you're not like a euphoric druggy type of high.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that extreme. That it's just it's very positive. I would say it's more mediated and more calming than something where you were to take a sort of chemical stimulant and be up
Yeah.
quickly.
A lot of this stuff, it's like exercise. That's what exercise is. It creates a stress response. And then
Exactly.
you improve because of it. You get better. So it's what you mentioned earlier is really cool. And it's about resilience. And all of this health and wellness stuff is about building resilience. Because a lot of people look at it the wrong way. They say, oh, Dave, you're trying to biohack and be healthy and fit so you can live this grand and meditate so you can be a freaking Buddha that looks like with abs, like Buddha with abs,
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, it's not about that. It's about giving yourself these little stresses and training yourself so that you are resilient to just the shit that's going to happen in life. You're going to have times where you just get crushed. And if you've built this resilience, you're going to recover quicker. You're going to be able to handle more weight. And it's going to make your life better in that sense. But it's not going to make your life not have shitty things or
Right.
hard things or whatever. Like, it's just more about building resilience. I thought that was great that you mentioned that because that's really what it's
Yeah.
about.
It's like inoculation, right? I mean, you would know from your military background that the best way to be able to handle stressful situations is to practice in stressful situations, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And, and a lot of the biohacking and the cryotherapy and all this kind of stuff and fasting and training, is nothing compared to the real stresses in life when they really hit you. And, when the rubber meets the road, it's tough, but you have to pull out all the weapons in your arsenal to help stave that off. And it's just like in combat. In combat, you can train all you want with live simulation and this and that and stress and basic training and no sleep deprivation. But when you're really fighting and people are really trying to kill you and your heart's racing, it's establishing those habits that are subconscious and having that training that allows you to get through it. It's still very stressful. It's still an intense experience. And that's why you've got, PTSD and a lot of that stuff sticks with you because it's very impactful. But the only way you can survive is if, if you just took Joe Schmo off the street, threw him in a van and then dropped him off in Baghdad with a gun and told him to go, he would probably curl up in a ball and start crying because he wouldn't have he wouldn't have been doing things to build up that resilience so that he could actually be like, oh, fuck, and try to operate under those circumstances. And that's the same thing that biohacking and health and fitness and all that stuff and even eating good food. I was talking today to some of the guys we were talking about at the mastermind group, and I'm going to do a follow-up on the group website, but we were talking about, I was talking about how I don't really wear sunblock anymore, and that since I've changed my diet drastically, I have a very nutrient-rich, antioxidant-rich diet, plus I also supplement with extra antioxidants, that I don't burn like I used to. I almost don't burn at all, and my theory is that, antioxidants prevent free radical damage. They prevent DNA damage, which is what happens when you're burnt. The cells, you're basically damaging the cells, and that's how you can create cancer. Cancer is in the body is created through damaged DNA that then, mutates and turns into this, crazy cancer cell. Well, the same thing with melanoma and all that stuff. So having natural antioxidants, things that prevent damage to your cells in your body. This is why things like, resveratrol and all these things are anti-cancer, anti-this, turmeric and all these things, because they have those antioxidant things. So when you have constant flow in your body at a cellular level, you're providing your body with tons of natural defense against, cellular damage and DNA damage. It makes a difference when you're soaking up the sun. When you're catching sun rays. And when I'm in the sun for a prolonged period of time, I do use natural oils, like carrot seed oil is like 40 or 45 SPF. So I put that on. But and I'm just like, I'm convinced that that's the way it is, And so the diet, health and fitness, fasting creates that stress response. All this stuff is to give you this arsenal that you can use when the environmental toxins and when life stress comes down on you. I'm very sensitive to cold too, and I've been kind of a wimp about it. Like I've tried the shower thing where you turn it hot and cold. I can't even do that. I just can't. I can't handle it. I can't handle the cold, and I know I need to do it. I know that I also know to take things on slowly. So like right now, I'm doing yoga is a new thing I'm taking on. I had a PTSD type experience, no joke, with yoga like 14 years ago. I went to a yoga class, and my friend convinced me to go, and it was like an advanced class. It wasn't like the hardest, but it wasn't a beginner class. It was like in the middle for people that have been practicing for a little bit. I had no idea what to expect, and I think I hadn't quite hydrated, and I hadn't stretched, and the room was really hot, and it wasn't Bikram yoga, but the room had gotten hot because it was a packed class, and I had a panic attack basically in the middle of yoga class because I'm surrounded by people. All of a sudden I'm tired. I was kind of dehydrated. It was hot. I was sweating my ass off. I wasn't ready for the physicality of it. And I had to I found myself feeling like I couldn't breathe. And it was like, oh my God, what am I going to run out of this class in front of everyone and embarrass myself in front of my friend? So I stuck it out. I didn't have a full blown panic attack, but I still to this day have a very difficult time being in a yoga class. It's like shock. And so I know that there's so many benefits of yoga, right? And so I'm like, shit, I've always stayed away from it. And I kept my self-talk was that, oh, I don't like yoga. I don't do yoga. I don't do well. And I said, you know what? Fuck, I'm going to face this challenge. I'm going to keep doing it, force myself to go into the classes and stop thinking, oh, what if I'm dehydrated? Because my mind starts going, oh, what if you're going to get dizzy? What if you haven't had enough food? And what if you need to pee in the middle of class? And I'm just like, you know what? Forget it. I don't care what happens. If I die doing this yoga class, I'm okay. And so I'm doing that right now. I'm just now, this last couple of weeks, have started doing it. So it's going to take me a month or two to kind of get that, tackle that. But the next thing I want to do is become less sensitive to cold.
So if you're in Whole Foods and you see a woman walk by with yoga pants, do you tense up a little bit?
I start to shake. I definitely don't look her in the eye. No.
So the cold water immersion, which I'm doing now almost on a daily basis, that's difficult. The cryotherapy was the easy start,
Okay.
but cold water, after having experienced it now for months, those first few seconds, it's not any better now than it was in the beginning.
Dude, I can't do it.
The build up to it and the comfort comes earlier, but especially in the morning, to wake up if it's a little cold in your house, to get in a cold shower, that takes a lot of a lot of personal motivation.
Yeah.
But one thing that I thought about just recently is there's so many things where where humans are always going to go for the easy reward, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was comparing it to drugs, like alcohol. You drink, you have the party, you have the fun, and then you have the the squeeze later, right? The hangover.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the marijuana later. I was like, yeah, you have the wine and then you smoke a joint. Right, gotcha.
But you have the party up front and then you have the payback.
Yeah.
Then you got to do your time. Whereas the cold immersion, you're taking the squeeze up front to get the juice later.
What are some of the benefits that you've seen doing the cold immersion? Like what is it in your life that's been like, yeah, this cold immersion's friggin' helped out?
Well, one thing I'd like to point out, because I've talked to a lot of people that do this, and I think some people go too far with the whole benefits and start talking about how their mother's dog is growing a shinier coat because they're doing cold
Sure.
immersion. And I think there's benefits to it, but I don't think it's, I don't think it's changing. I don't think it's life changing
Sure.
to
Sure.
that degree.
Okay.
So I'm pretty moderate and considerate about what I think are honestly things I could attribute to the cold. And so there's still a psychological benefit is the number one
Mm.
thing. It's tough to get in there. It's cold. You do it. And then once your body feels comfortable with it, you kind of feel like you made step one. And it's like, all right, I overcame that.
Mm.
But then when you get out, then it feels physically good. Like your body is as all your blood vessels are opening. That kind of feels nice. But I think, again, it's the psychological benefit. At least for me, that is the main reason to keep doing that. Is you go into this challenge, face it, you deal with it. And especially if you do it first thing in the morning, like you're starting off doing something that was hard. There's just a natural benefit to that, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting. This reminded me. I read a lot of biographies, especially of our like founding fathers or like just American history. And I was reading. I forget who it was. It was either Abe Lincoln or George Washington. Well, one of the two of them had an ice bath that they would put by their bed, and when they woke up early in the morning, first thing they did was put their feet in that ice bath. And I remember thinking like, whoa, that's crazy. This was years ago. And so I was like, wow, that's crazy. So this stuff is not new. I mean, this stuff's been going on for people. Some
It
people
was
know.
common treatment in insane asylums, like Van Gogh, when he did his ear off and went to the insane asylum. It was cold baths 2 times a week, and he kept a journal about how he was feeling better after ice baths.
Holy
It was
shit.
pretty. So they like put him in like a, not the guillotine, but the device where you have your head and
Yeah.
your hand. It was essentially a tub where like they forced you in. I
Damn.
think he wasn't having to be forced, but like it forced you to stay in the cold water. But twice a week, that was
Holy
the
shit.
regimen for a lot of.
It builds that mental toughness. That's, it's a huge deal, especially a military guy like me. That's the mental toughness is huge because where the mind goes, the body will follow. Your body's capable of some things that you can't even imagine. It's where your mental capacity is. Because I remember guys that trained their body up like crazy and would look like GI Joes, but when things started blowing up and people started dying, they hid under the vehicle, crying or ran, and it was the guys that had built that mental toughness that were able to push through it. So yeah, now that you think about it, that the cold therapy more than physical, it really builds mental toughness, something that I need to build because I've built a lot of mental toughness, but I'm afraid of cold water. Like I'm afraid of the cold, man. I'm a wimp when it comes to the cold. And that's something that I got to change. I got to become more resilient. So thanks for reminding me that.
At first I was getting into the water and I would just repeat in my head like, it's not cold, it doesn't hurt, like, and I realized how silly it was. Like now you get in and you feel it and you say it's cold. I recognize it's cold. I'm not trying to change that. I'm accepting it. I'm dealing with it. That's the thing. Is like it's there. It's a stress. I don't like it, but I'm handling it. And that's the first step, I think, to like embrace it.
All right. So I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try doing at least the cold, hot, cold thing in the shower.
I've heard like what was it? Someone saying 20 seconds cold, 10 seconds hot. See if you can do that 10 times.
I'll probably break the nozzle off of my.
I have broken the shower.
Yeah.
I really.
Yeah, and then you get the other. Then you got to run around the house naked trying to like find a bucket to like. No, it's So okay, cool. So
And I'll say I know that there's also other benefits having to do with the immune system. I'm not an expert on that, and I don't understand it as much, so I don't want to.
But you're not sick. You're not sick, so it's working.
No, but there is some sort of stimulation of the immune system or helping the body, especially with autoimmunity, it's an overstimulation of the immune system, right? I think there are some benefits for regulating the immune system with the cold therapy, but I'll leave it at that because I don't want to speak beyond my pay grade.
It kind of calibrates. I could see how it could calibrate your immune response. Kind of like here's something to be aware of, you know,
Right.
not this little thing coming in the body that you're pretending is a, you know, invader causing some autoimmune thing. I think I've been having a little bit of that autoimmune side. I've been more aware of that recently. Very, very interesting stuff, man. Yeah. Gosh. So the Wim Hof stuff is kind of interesting too. Tell me about that.
Yeah, because that's part and parcel. That's the I bought Wim Hof's 10-week program, which involves the cold immersion and then the breathing exercises, and then he also incorporates some yoga moves and some meditation. So it's kind of a package that you're supposed to practice all together. Honestly, I struggle to do all this stuff because it does require a lot of time each day. But the
Yeah.
breathing exercises are super cool. Have you tried those at all?
No, I'm curious. There's so many things to try and buy. You know, I
Right.
love it.
You do need an extra hour a day when you're a biohacker to try all your new
Yeah, all your
things
new
that
shit. Yeah.
you love. But the breathing, essentially, what you're doing is there's methods of breathing where you're breathing in big and you let it out and you repeat those, for 30 breaths, and then you exhale fully, and then you just hold it, exhaled. And then when you really feel the need to breathe, you breathe in and hold that for about 10 seconds. And so that would be a full cycle. And so you repeat that 3 or 4 times. And it's incredible how you can build up. So as you're really breathing in and you're sort of hyperventilating yourself, you're driving out CO2 from your blood, which is going to allow the pH of your blood to raise from about 7.2 to you can go 7.4, even 7.6. And then so there's just a ton of physiological changes in your body when your blood pH is that high. I mean, enzymes are working differently. The I think it's called the Bohr effect. The oxygen is bound less tightly to hemoglobin. There's just all sorts of crazy things that are going on. But you when you hold your breath exhaled, so you have no breath, I found that I could go 30 seconds when I was first starting to do it, and before I had to breathe in again. And then by the third round, I could hold my breath a minute 30 exhaled. But now after practicing for a while, I can get up to 2 minutes exhaled, which for all the people who do the Wim Hof stuff is nothing. There's people doing 4 minutes and crazy
Yeah.
numbers. But for me, that's a big deal. I could never hold my breath for that long, and to hold it exhaled is even more uncomfortable. But it's just you feel good, and when you breathe in again, you feel like your blood vessels in your head are opening up. I can feel my heart beating throughout my body. There is some euphoria to it. It's kind of nice, but you're stimulating again. I think you're stressing the body in some regard, and your body has a response. And I think there's a lot of vitality to your body. You want to live. You're going to overcome it, and so you have that again, that inoculation, that resilience over time. And I know with the breathing, there is a lot of benefit to the immune system, and that's something that for anyone that doesn't know about the Wim Hof stuff, check it out on just YouTube, Wim Hof, WIMHOF, and Iceman. And there's a documentary on Vice,
Mm-hmm.
but you can find it on YouTube. It's like 20 minutes long, and it shows him doing his breathing exercises and getting in super cold water or doing ice bath and things like that. And he's just kind of he's a crazy character, but then he's demonstrating that doing his breathing exercises, he can increase his adrenaline in his blood such that when endotoxins are put into his blood, they did this experiment at a university where they put a endotoxin, a bacterial endotoxin, into his blood, and he doesn't get fevers and
Holy
chills and
shit.
all normal
Wow.
people do. He just sort of kind of has this resilience to that, which is just super cool. That what his message ultimately is saying that we have more capacity to control our bodies than most would believe or most have been told. So he just wants to teach people that you can have this extra control of your body that you never knew you had. So to me, that fits right into being a biohacker.
Yeah, God, the theme of resilience is just popping out right at me, and it just makes so much sense. Everything's all connected. Growing up in America is wonderful, but the problem is it shelters you, And it's so just thinking about it in a bigger picture type of thing, and the same thing, like people that grew up in areas that were a little more uncertain and they had a little more of these stresses and they had to overcome some of these challenges, like they come to America and those are the people that start $100 million, start little businesses, become $100 million businesses, and those are the people that just get shit done. And then you see a lot of people run around here complaining. They can't deal with stress, they can't deal with life, they're in their own, and it's just like they're soft. It's like why I was reading about with the Roman Empire and the fall of the Roman Empire, and it's like, it's just this. There's a reoccurring theme, like there's a double-edged sword with luxury and with this wonderful life that we lived. There comes this thing where you're exposed to less stress, we're less resilient and less tolerant of stress. People freak out, and being in the military, so coming from this upper middle class private school type neighborhood and everything, and having this wonderful life that I had, going straight into being a tanker and into combat less than a year later, and coming back home, I got exposed to that stress and I came back home. And a lot of the reasons that I am anything today and that I've been successful to this point is because of that stress that I was exposed to. I came back here and it's like a turkey shoot here. It's like fish in a barrel. It's like so easy because I just have this mindset and that exposure to that. My body understands what real stress and bad shit is.
To come back though, when you first came back and you have that, you're in the turkey shoot, like you said. How'd that feel?
Well, I mean, there's a lot. It's really complicated, but it felt like anything was possible. Like it felt like I could do anything. It felt like I had such an advantage. I would look at civilians, and I think I went to like a junior college for a couple classes just to get some GI Bill money to mess around with that. And I just would look at these people and I would see everyone signing fucking petitions and complaining about shit. And these kids haven't even left Sacramento ever, and they're signing petitions about stuff happening in countries halfway around the world. And I mean it's all good, but I just looked around me and everyone's talking and complaining and so sensitive, and everyone's offended by everything. And it was and I understand, but I just kind of looked and I just saw weak people that I saw people who were disrupted. They were really upset about something, about a political situation or somebody not being nice to them, or they're not being wheelchair access somewhere, and they were really offended, and their breathing was changed, their body language was tight. It really put them out of a space. It really kept them from performing optimally. And I was looking at them like, dude, that's weakness. I mean, I get it. You want to, yes, handicap access is a good thing. Thinking about the politics in the world, okay, I could see how that could be a good thing. And caring about other people that are, having hard times or being taken advantage of, great, that's good stuff. But to be the kind of person that really gets so that it consumes your life, that's weakness. That's some sort of outside thing affecting you and keeping you from performing optimally. It's really setting you off. And I looked at that and I just saw that I didn't have that. I was kind of like, man, I'm so this is easy. Nobody's shooting at me. It's not the military. This is look at all these rules we have. It's so easy here. Everyone's so nice. There's policemen. There's almost no risk here. Even in bad neighborhoods. I mean, dude, yeah, you could walk into some of the worst neighborhoods and everyone makes jokes and yeah, maybe it's more dangerous, but maybe your chance of getting mugged is a little higher. But to be honest, compared to the rest of the world, the danger is that it's like that in the nice neighborhoods in a lot of other places. You know what I mean? So it's relative to what I had seen, everything just seemed so easy and safe. It was like bowling with the rails. The junior kids bowling where the rails, you can't throw a gutter ball. That's how I felt. I couldn't throw a gutter ball. And so I was like, well, shit, I just want to throw. I'm just going to keep throwing and just knock all these pins down because they're here. I had this sense of just everything is here for the taking. This country, holy crap. We have it so good here. There's nothing I can't do. So I started pursuing all my stuff and just it gave me the motivation to just do stuff that I wasn't supposed to be able to do, to dream really big, and to just kind of have that no fear. And so, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
But that's not the experience of all vets, right? I know a lot of people do have sort of the other end of the extreme where perhaps come back to the country and they're doing those things that they don't have as much consequence as what they were doing, in their experiences with the battle. And I imagine that would, for some people, manifest in perhaps the opposite way. I mean, you know more than I.
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't speak for everyone, but the thing is, it's such a big stress, and the military doesn't teach you how to deal emotionally with this stuff. It just it's concerned with making you a good fighter, a good war fighter, which is somebody that can really compartmentalize things and push the emotion away and still execute. But that unfortunately has consequences. And they don't really do a good job building you spiritually and emotionally, because we don't talk about those kind of things because, hey, the next deployment's coming up. We don't have time to deal with your PTSD because in 10 months you're going back. So when guys get out, that's the problem. And I struggled, and I still have to stay on top of it. But it's finding the tools to deal with that and process that appropriately so that you can then reap the benefits of being adapted to that kind of stress. So all combat veterans come back with this huge advantage, but not many of them can take advantage of their natural advantage, can execute on that because they're having so much trouble with dealing with the shit. And I was one of those guys too, and so that's another big mission for me, is to work with veterans and to show them that, this is how I've tried to process things. I'm not perfect. I deal with stuff every day and it manifests differently in different people. But when you get a veteran that can deal with that appropriately, it's not something that ever goes away. It's like once you're an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic. Well, you find ways to deal with it and move on. So you deal with it appropriately, and then you can take that mindset and that advantage, that mental advantage that you have over the Joe civilian who grew up in a soft world, and you can just basically go kick ass. So I've been able to do that, but it's taken a lot to get to that point. A lot of trial and error, gone to a lot of dark places. It's really easy. At the end of the day, the big difference is that when you've been greater love hath no man than to lay down his life for another. So this goes back into talking about, my whole thing of the way of the warrior and being the warrior is that your power base, your strength in life comes from your ability to give and receive love. It's directly proportionate to how much power you have and your ability to do the impossible and accomplish and to live the life you always imagine. That's my whole theme. Well, in the Army, we don't talk about love, but there's a saying, greater love hath no man than to lay down his life for another. So the point is, when you have, you think about your wife and your kids, right? There's nothing that you could think of that you love more than that. But now there's a lot of people who are just like you, your same age right now, who are deploying or are at war with 2 kids and a wife at home, and they have the same thing just like you, that they think about their kids and their wife. Nothing I love more. They're going to be in a situation where, let's say they're in a firefight or some type of very dangerous situation where it's like any second that it could be their number. They could die. They've come face to face with death, and they have that fear. Like, I don't want to die. I was scared when I was over there. And you have to look to the guy to the left and right of you, and you make a choice, and you say, I'm going to step out and put myself at risk here. I might catch a bullet to the head. I might get blown up, but I'm going to do it despite the fear because I love this person. This is my team, and I'm not going to abandon my team, because the only way I'm getting home is if they're with me, and the only way that's going to happen is if I'm with them. And you make a fucking commitment. And greater love hath no man than to break. So what happens is this amazing thing where then, if you think about it, your wife, your kids, all these things that you love more than anything in the world, you make the choice to give that up in order to save somebody else's life. So you are essentially saying like that is the greatest form of love, is to give up everything you love most in the world for someone else. So it's like this new level of love that you didn't even think was possible. And that's what gives you the power to overcome the intense fear of I don't want to die, and to perform in combat. That's what allows you to do these things that, civilians always go, oh, I don't know how you did it, Dave. I don't know how. Oh my God, it sounds so scary. I'm like, you want to know how? Love. The highest form of love. A form that most people don't know, because most people think that your wife and your kids are the thing you love the most. But if that's true, you wouldn't risk your life for somebody else, knowingly, willingly, over and over again, go out and do that job. You would just say, I quit. I can't do this. This is not, it's not worth me losing this, or not being a father, or whatever. Not to say you don't want that to happen, because you do. So what happens is you come back home. Now you're in the civilian world, and you're surrounded, you're away from your battle buddies. You're away from the guys that you've built that bond, this new ultimate highest form of love. And that's there. You're gone from them. You're by yourself. You're with these people, like your wife and your kids, and your father and mother, and your family and friends, and people that you used to think were the closest and knew you the most. But now you realize there's somebody that knows you at an even deeper level, because you've shared that bond. Greater love hath no man than to lay down his life for another. So you've shared that love with that person. You've built this new bond with them. There's this deeper level to you, this depth to you that you didn't even know that you had as a spiritual being, right? And what happens when you're at home is that is empty. And no matter what you do, the people that you thought touched you in the deepest places in your heart can't get to a part that's even deeper than that. And so there's this hole at the very center of your soul that can leave you feeling like, even though you're surrounded by all these people that you love and are grateful for, that you're still alone. Nobody can really relate to you at that level. And you feel lonely and dark. And that really can creep up on you. That's how you can be surrounded by a lot of, this and that and great stuff, and just really have that darkness and that heaviness with you, is because you feel that emptiness, and like you can't relate. You can't relate to the people that you used to be able to relate to the most anymore. That there's a part of you that they just don't know and understand. And so there's a part of you that's always alone. That's always not understood. And so that's the big problem. That creates a lot of issues. That's really hard. I've struggled with that a lot too. Being in a room full of people that you love and you care for, but you still feel empty inside, is kind of hard. And the problem is, it's in our instinct to try to fill that emptiness with temporary stimulations, and which are oftentimes, maybe it's adrenaline, maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's a combination of the both, maybe it's drugs, maybe it's a gun to the head, whatever it is. And so we see that those problems happen. And so...
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Well, I was recently, just yesterday, listened to an interview by a guy named Sebastian Junger, who's a journalist and author. He was a war reporter. He wrote a book called War. He also made the film Restrepo.
Yeah, great documentary. Really great.
So someone asked him the question, like, what do you think we as civilians on an individual level could do to help vets? And his one suggestion was to have a day where, when vets come back from the war, like have a day each year, be it Memorial Day or whatever specific date is, where civilians gather and all vets have a chance to talk for even 10 minutes just about their experiences in the war. And he said, having people come as civilians and just listening to vets, and he's not a vet himself, but saw combat from the sort of that ancillary position.
Sure, yeah.
That would be one of the first steps, one real physical, meaningful thing people could do. But what do you think about that, actually having real experience?
Yeah, I mean, for me, talking's always been therapy. I talk a lot about my experiences because to me that's how I process them. That's how I get that energy out. And I think too, there's a good point to that. Like, it helps sort of create a little bit more connection. So even if they can't understand because they weren't there, they can understand that there is that part of you, and that it's almost understanding of that relationship, and that you know that they know and they know that you know, that kind of helps. Okay, at least they're more aware. At least they're more aware of this part of me. And so I can see how that could help. I mean, hey, people are all different, and so vets are all different, and people process things differently. But for me, it's definitely helped to talk. I talk a lot, and it's definitely helped.
I know as a civilian, it seems very hollow when you just say to someone like, I appreciate your service. Like, maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's nice, but it's simple, but it just doesn't feel like you're giving much to someone who gave a lot.
It's just hard, man. It's hard because, again, it's just like I get that all the time, and I say thank you, and I do appreciate it, but it's just, there's just such a separation between the war fighter and the civilian. And the cultures, like back in, if you look at like the Romans and stuff, and a lot of these cultures, like, they were at their strongest when the most, when they were very close with either a lot of them were war fighters or had been war fighters, or a lot of people were closely connected to war fighters, so that there was a very close connection to that danger, that risk, the cost of war, all those kind of things. And then as that became more separate, and and so I mean, a lot of these cultures, like I look at like the Israelis, and I always get along really well with most Israelis because they all have to serve. So even if they all haven't been in combat, and they're also in a combat zone all the time, there's always that threat of a suicide bomber, this and that. So they're more resilient. Like we've been talking about, those people as a people are more resilient. They're used to stress, mental, physical, emotional danger. They've all served in the military and had that training. They understand. They can appreciate the danger. They can appreciate, all of that. And there's a sense of there's a connection that I find with like Israelis, for example, because I just know that they understand me a lot more than the average American civilian. And there's something to that. So I think that that communication is always the key. So communicating is really good. I really think at the end of the day, it's our responsibility as veterans to take care of veterans. And because at the end of the day, like, we're the ones that can relate to each other, and we're the ones that can fill that void and help people deal with the shit in a way that allows them to then be able to go ahead and be the best version of themselves in life and go live a happy, normal life, considering that, normal considering that they've been through what they've been through. And it's definitely possible, but it's our responsibility because, when I'm around other veterans, doesn't matter what war it's from, I feel very comfortable. I feel like I'm at home. I feel like people understand me. There are some veterans that are winemakers or in the wine industry, and when I get together with them, I don't have to say anything. Just being around them, they know I know, I know they know. I just feel really comfortable. I feel at home. I feel happy. When I'm feeling really like bad and kind of sad and depressed and low, I'll go down to the memorial down there in downtown Napa. It has the rifle and boots and the Kevlar, the Soldier's Cross. It's the KIA memorial for my war, for OIF, OEF. And I just feel, for some reason, I gain strength from that, and I feel like I'm with, being in the presence of that, I'm with people that understand me, even though I'm sitting in front of a statue that's memorializing the people from Napa who died in my war. That there's some sort of, just being there gives me a sense of home. I feel more at home standing in front of that statue than I do in my house. And that's the truth. And when I'm feeling really low, I go and do that. I seek out other veterans to just be around. It's not like we sit there and cry on each other's shoulder, but just to be around. It's a big deal. It makes a big difference. It's the best kind of therapy, is just being together, is reestablishing that team. So at the end of the day, I think it's our responsibility, and I appreciate civilians trying to help and, trying to be helpful. And I do think communication's always the key, but But yeah, at the end of the day, it's our responsibility.
I'm going to
Cool.
send the link to the podcast. So you can. I think you might like the interview with the Sebastian Younger, but
Yeah,
let me know what
I
you.
love that. I love that. All right, man. So, if in closing, I don't know, are there, what are some, is there, if there's one or a couple things that you could go back and tell yourself, your 19, 20-year-old self, you can go back for like 30 seconds and just give them like a heads up. What would you say to your younger self?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's not fair, but if I had that chance, that advantage, which it really would be, I would say know that what you're feeling, it could be better, but you have to work to find a way to make it better.
Right.
Do some introspection, figure out what it is, but don't accept, you know, mediocrity. Don't accept feeling like shit, and don't accept that like you're gonna peak in terms of health and mental capacity in your 20s, and then it's going to be a slow decline from there. Like, I feel now at 36 in the best shape of my life. I feel like I'm learning more and faster because I've figured out there's different methods to learn. I mean, these kind of things, conversations, are some way that I learn a lot faster than reading a book.
Okay.
And that wasn't necessarily presented as an option when I was young.
And speaking of books, if there is one book or one source or something that you could, have yourself read, your younger self read, what would that be? If you could just hand them.
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I think honestly, the most profound book that I've read in my 20s was The Omnivore's Dilemma, Michael
Michael
Pollan's book
Pollan.
that
Yeah.
examines what we eat and how we're not necessarily in control of our food. Obviously, I'm a cook. I grow a lot of vegetables. I'm very interested in what I eat and obviously being healthy and sort of optimizing things. But I think that just bit by bit, we've started, going away from our natural state with commercialization of food and things like that. And so I think that was a very helpful look at like, hey, look, we've really strayed far from the course, and you can choose with your dollar. I mean, that's I'm not an advocate by any means, but I do try to support the things that I believe in, and so I think there's a lot of choice, but you have to be aware and you have to be specific about what you want to choose to put in your body or do to your body, or the way that you take care of yourself.
Right. Right. Awesome, man. Well,
Hey, can
thank.
I turn it around on you
Yeah.
and what book you'd want to do for that point in your life?
Ah, okay. Yeah, at the end of the day, I really think that if I could give my younger self The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle,
Mm-hmm.
because like we've talked about, the body will follow the mind. The mind is the key to everything. Nobody breaks their arm and then shoots themselves in the head the next day or hangs themselves. But people go into depression and shoot themselves and hang themselves. Mental things are people don't really realize that's the biggest controller, because you can do anything if you can control your mind, and or not control your mind, but just understand how your mind works and separate yourself from the ego and from the thinking mind. Establish your conscious presence, bring more presence into your life. It's going to help everything. It's going to help everything. And it's going to help you, most importantly, listen, because you're in the now and you can hear the natural. So when you're in the now, you're conscious. And I really believe that consciousness is something we all share. We're all manifesting consciousness through our physical form. So is a flower that's blooming, right? It's there. It's what we all share. But we spend a lot of time in our mind, which is to say outside of the present moment, which is to say in an unconscious state, because the mind has hijacked us. So that Power of Now really helped me become more present, which helped me become saturated in consciousness, essentially, which has all of this great knowledge, these instincts, the gut feelings that you get, the real knowledge the stuff that you almost recognize as familiar when you hear it. It's almost like you're rediscovering something you already knew. That kind of stuff, those kind of truths. The great books and stuff. This is why they're still relevant. The great, even though they're written in some different language or in a different version of English we're not used to, is because the key themes touch on these truths that come from a place that's conscious, that's from consciousness, that's from this universal truth we all share, that we all know, this gut feeling, this instinct, and being in tune with that, saturated in it helps you listen to that. It helps you listen to that great truth, that great knowledge that will never stir you in the wrong direction, that will help you connect with other people that are also present and really create a powerful situation in your life. And so for me, The Power of Now is a book that it's the book. And if I could do one thing for myself, it would to give myself that gift, because everything else from there can kind of take place.
Cool.
I never give short answers.
I don't think it's in your DNA.
No, man. No way. All right, man. Well, hey, thanks. I'll get this thing up and running, and yeah, I really appreciate your time. And is there a place where people? I'll get a link to your podcast in the description of this video, so they can go see you. Is there any other links that you'd want, or any other ways people can contact you, or?
Yeah, I mean, Inside Winemaking, you can just search that through, find me there, and there's
Okay.
some contact things there and emails. But yeah, that's the easiest way to find me.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
We'll do, man.
Awesome.
All right. Hey, thanks for hanging out.
Later.
Cheers, buddy. All right.